Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to be your own hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient. Been battling cancer now for almost 2 years, over 2 years actually, and doing better. I'm coming to you from Southern California, and we just had beautiful, beautiful weather, and it's been really, really great. And this was after we had gale force winds for about 4 days, and it was crazy. It was really crazy. But we are recording this just before Thanksgiving, and that's the first thing that my guest Savio and I would like to talk about is Thanksgiving. And for me personally, Thanksgiving has taken on a new meaning. It is my favorite, without a question, my favorite holiday. I love Thanksgiving because I love the name, first of all. You know, it's such a beautiful holiday. It's where we give thanks. And I am so thankful. I give thanks every single day, but every day that I'm able to open my eyes, wake up, and experience a new day, I give Thanksgiving. I am so thankful and so blessed and so happy for this incredible life that we've been afforded, and and plus I love the food too. My two daughters, Tanya and Lisa, got my wife and I a whole Thanksgiving meal from Whole Foods, which I'm gonna pick up tomorrow, which is Wednesday. We're filming this on Tuesday, and so yeah, it's going to have the whole works, and it's really good. So we're really looking forward to it. So I'd like to bring on my guest, Savio Clemente. And Savio, what does Thanksgiving mean to you?
Hi, Mark. Well, before I begin, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to discuss and to talk and to explore. Thanksgiving actually means a lot. When I was younger, it meant a whole bunch of family members, cousins, aunts, uncles. That has dwindled over the past 10, 15 years. Just people got sick and just we've all spread apart. But I think as I've gotten older, especially after my 30s, it really brings on this idea of gratitude, like you mentioned, this idea of feeling like, so I'm a cancer survivor myself, so I feel gratitude that I found a way to heal and I continue to be cancer free. Gratitude that my parents are still alive. My dad is in his early 80s. My mom is in early 70s. And I have sisters and, I have nieces and nephews as well. So I'm grateful for my friends as well. But I'm also grateful to the fact that I've never given up. Like, as much as challenges and stumbling blocks that I have had to overcome and face, I'm grateful that I always found a way to make it work. And even if it hasn't worked, I found a way to bounce back and be resilient through that. So
Awesome, awesome, love it, love it. What about the food?
yes. So we would be like 4 families deep, and everybody would bring a dish, and we would converge on someone's house, and it would be nonstop eating. I become extremely mindful of what I eat, not even before cancer, just within the last 20 years. But I will say I do indulge, and I'm willing to try anything and everything on that day. So I'm thankful that my belly and my digestive system doesn't give me the negative feedback like it used to do when I used to overeat, and literally my stomach was like Santa's belly. So anyway.
So with that, we're going to get going and learn about you and your story. And so why don't you start us from the beginning, when you got cancer and what happened with your diagnosis?
Sure, Mark. So cancer came into my life in July of 2014. Prior to cancer hitting me, I was to some degree living a very healthful lifestyle. I was eating organic foods, hormone-free foods. I was meditating every day. I was working out 6 to 7 days a week. I was taking vitamins, seeing a naturopath. I was doing all the quote unquote right physical things. But cancer did happen. And basically, it happened in a way that was very strange. My stomach started to get distended, larger and larger. So I knew something was wrong. I'm a male, so obviously I'm not pregnant. And then I had a little bit of belabored breathing over the course of like a week or two. I ended up seeing a naturopath who I've seen for a good 10 years to that. He would analyze my blood and tell me what vitamin structure and what foods and stuff I should eat. And he looked at my blood for results, and he's like, Savio, something is definitely wrong. It's like 3 or 4 different things. I don't know. But he's like, I really think you should go and seek out mainstream medicine and find out what's wrong. So he urged me to get a sonogram, which I did. I entered the sonogram office, and I remember after the sonogram, they would not let me leave for about an hour and a half. And I was like, that's strange. And I kept asking, and they're like, no, sir, hold on. Someone came out after an hour and a half and said, sir, you really need to take yourself to the hospital. I suggest you call a family member to take you there. I'm like, what are you talking about? I have my car here. I'm an adult. I have my car. They're like, no, you really need to call a family member. So my dad came by, picked me up. We went to the hospital, saw a doctor there. And within 30 minutes, they admitted me to the 5th floor. That night, they ended up putting a breathing tube on me. And then I heard some of the nurses whisper that I would be transferred to the 7th floor, which they call the cancer floor. So I kind of had an idea that it could be cancer. It wasn't until that next morning, when they had to attach a nephrostomy tube in me, that the doctor whispered in my ear, it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 3, it's B cell, which meant nothing to me because honestly, up until that point, cancer was a periphery. It didn't really affect my nuclear family or even to some degree, my extended family. And no one that I knew on both my mom and my dad's side ever had cancer, and no one had a blood cancer. And so I was bedridden for a week in the hospital. I was in the hospital for an additional week. So I was bedridden because they put the nephrostomy tube and they had to distend about, at that point, it was 7 to 8 liters of fluid from my abdomen. The second week, they basically, the medical director came in and she said, listen, I know about your background. I know that you are open to medicine, but you just don't take, medication, or you just don't do those type of things. But I'm telling you now, she looked at me deadpan and she said, if you do not take your first round of chemo before you leave this hospital, I don't think you're going to make it. And I'm like, wow. And she's like, yes. So I remember consulting a good friend who's holistic minded, and she's like, are you sure you want to put those poisons in your body? Like, they kill and ravage everything, good and the bad. And honestly, Mark, I really thought to myself deeply. And I don't know if you ever watched the movie. I keep telling the story because it's so profound, but there's this movie called The Little Buddha, starring Keanu Reeves back in the day. I think it was the early 90s. And he played Siddhartha, Little Buddha. And basically, he left all his worldly possessions away, and he was meditating with 2 other ascetics. And while he was doing it, he heard 2 people on a fishing boat, and they had an instrument. And one of them said, if you hold the instrument too loose, it won't play. If you hold it too tight, it'll snap. The way is the middle way. And so I promised myself that I was going to do the rounds of chemo and then also do a whole bunch of holistic modalities, integrated modalities, which I did follow. And I can happily say, after doing 6 rounds, including the integrated modalities, that December, so 4.5 months later, I was told I was cancer-free. This December, in a couple of weeks, I will be considered 8 years in remission. So that's
wow, fantastic. Congratulations. That is awesome. That is really, really great. In fact, you and I are both the same. We both had 6 rounds of chemo, and I pretty much did the same thing as you as far as treating it naturally. I mean, I still have to have my one foot in the conventional medicine door, to get testing and various things. But I primarily do natural things right now, so I'm in total agreement with what you're saying. Absolutely. So what was so I think I went through the same struggle as you as far as chemo, and that was a huge undertaking mentally for me to finally accept doing chemo. And I'm glad I did, because in my case, I had prostate, bone, and lung cancer, which was ravaging me. And so I had to stop the quick and the fast growth of it, which, the chemo did. How was it for you when you were told that mentally after, I know your thoughts were similar to mine as far as chemo goes. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. So it's really interesting because years prior to that, I would see commercial for Cancer Centers of America. And I remember saying once to myself, if I ever have cancer, I'm going to follow that route of, because I felt to a large degree that the best of both worlds is the answer. This is my own feeling. This is my own thoughts. So I have to be very careful because I'm a board certified wellness coach. So I'd be very careful what I tell and what I don't say. But to a large degree, I wasn't so much scared about, administering chemo. I was more scared of the fact that my body wasn't used to just medications in general. And now I'm taking extreme amounts. And they kept telling me, so I had something called RCHOP, so Rituxan, plus 4 other medically sounding large names. One of them was vincristine, and the other one was prednisone, and 2 other ones. And I remember the doctors kept saying to me, Rituxan's the answer, Rituxan's the answer. And I'm like, I don't know what you guys are even talking about. Because they kept telling me, like, this is promising, this is wonderful. If they kept telling me, if you're going to have a cancer, this is the cancer to get. And I'm like, I don't think anyone wants any cancer, let alone this kind of cancer. But so I was really mainly afraid of that. And then, of course, I did my due diligence because I was in the hospital, right, for 2 weeks. So I had Wi-Fi access. So I kept Googling things in general. And I remember they kept saying there's, you don't get any bone marrow if that doesn't work and all that. So I kept thinking to myself, am I going to go down a slippery slope here? Like what's going to happen? I didn't care about losing my hair. Honestly, I kept the look. It's a badge of courage for me. And people said they like it. And I personally, it takes away all the stress that I used to worry about fixing my hair and doing my hair and all that. It's like, it's such a godsend, really. So I wasn't afraid of that. I lost my eyebrows, and no one tells you, Mark, until you're a cancer survivor, that when they say that you lose hair everywhere. And if you're an Asian Indian like I am, hair was part of your like identity, So I remember like looking at myself in the mirror the first time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a pubescent boy here. This is out of control here. But so, and of course I was worried about like lethargy. I was worried about the vomiting, but honestly, I really feel like the integrated modalities, and I did a whole host of them. I think that really aided in my quick recovery time, because the only thing I did experience was neuropathy, and a little bit of neuropathy on my fingers and my toes. But that's it. Had a great appetite. My mom made sure I gained all the weight that I lost. I lost like 12 pounds in the hospital over the course of 2 weeks. So, and then I kept working out. I went out as myself. Like people probably thought something was wrong with me, but I didn't really care. And I honestly, and I think this is where it's a philosophy when you're faced with anything as huge as cancer. You have to make a decision. What are you going to put your energy in? And for me, my energy was all about healing. I focused like a laser beam on my healing. That's the choice I made for myself.
I'm so glad that you said that, because people need to hear that. I mean, another thing that I think people, for me, when I was going through all of it, was accepting that person in the mirror today. I never wanted to compare myself even to my younger self, even 6 months before, because I knew I was different now. I knew that physically I was not the same. Mentally I was actually sharper, because that's the only thing I had that wasn't affected, which was weird. How they say, you lose the use of a limb or an organ or a sense, and something else gets enhanced. And for me, I was very debilitated. I had a hard time walking, and I couldn't touch my toes at all, and so I had to have somebody put lotion on my feet from the neuropathy, and things like that. But what I began to notice was how sharp I was mentally. And so that's because that was all I had. That was what I used. What did you find as far as, that goes? Anything debilitating, or did you have, other senses get enhanced at this point in the journey?
Mm. I'm glad you actually bring up this point because I felt to a large degree, since my cancer was a blood cancer, that I had invisible scars. Like I couldn't really see underneath. Like it wasn't someone who I knew had breast cancer, someone who had throat cancer, someone who, who had like liver cancer where they would have physical pains. And so for me, I really did, and I think this is really my exploration. So I grew up Catholic, but I knew sophomore college that I wanted to explore other belief systems. So I studied things from like Buddhism to higher spiritualism to just the gamut of things, because I really wanted to understand what religions, what are they teaching, and so for me, I really used a learning from those, which is you are more than just your body. So I saw the Savio that had cancer. I accepted that I was stage 3. I accepted the fact that I'm going to chemo every 3 weeks. I accepted all that. But I also saw a greater Savio, the higher Savio, that is creative, full of life, that wants to do things, that's emotionally alive, that wants to engage with life. And I really separated the two, and I kind of pulled that higher version from that lower self, the one who was basically dying. And so for me, it was really a chance and an opportunity to really live into the moment and not like pretend like it's not happening, or not, like people would say, oh, like I had family members who actually said to me, oh, you totally have this, because as we've known you for so long, you always find a way to make it, make it work. And I remember looking at them, and I loved the cheerleading. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. But I also felt like it was another thing that I needed to overcome. It was something else that they were burdening me with. And so I really asked them if they could just keep it within my nuclear family. So I didn't really tell my cousins, I didn't tell my uncles and aunts, because I didn't want the extra pressure. I wanted to just live with the cancer, live with the ability to heal, and also live with the possibility, but not have the extra amount of stress that I felt like it would give me if I had other people trying to like rally around me. And I've interviewed so many cancer survivors at this point, up to 200, and they said support was a huge thing for them. And quite honestly, for me, it's not something, maybe in hindsight, it could have helped me, but all I knew is what I knew for the rest of my life. Up until that point, I was 38 years old, was I'm the only one who could get myself out of this mess. I'm the only one who can heal myself, because to know thyself is to heal thyself.
Beautiful. I love that. Absolutely love it. So when you got your diagnosis of stage 3, what exactly did they tell you, and how did it resonate with you? Because I kind of see us on a real similar path. I kind of feel like I'm talking to myself in some respects. So I was just curious what went through your mind at
Well,
that particular time.
it was 2 doctors. I remember they had to do a bone marrow aspiration. They told me that this was going to be extremely painful, that people have kicked, screamed, yelled expletives at them. And I just honestly was just whimpering and was sweating. I just remember profusely sweating when they were doing it. And then they told me about 30 or 45 minutes later that, they confirmed the diagnosis. Even though the doctor whispered in my ear, it wasn't really officially confirmed until that point. Of course, they was worried that it would go into my brain. That's why they did the bone marrow aspiration. And I remember just sitting with that, with what they told me. And they waited a couple of minutes, and then they were like, sir, Savio, I have to really tell you, like, unfortunately, we've told hundreds of people at this point that they had cancer, and your reaction to is just startling to us. And I remember looking at them and just saying to them, like, I don't think you understand who I am. I'm not someone who's just going to just fall and be like Pinocchio, like without its strings. What am I going to do? That's not who I am. I'm someone who's okay. I have to face this reality. It might take me some time, but I'm just someone who likes to challenge myself. And so I said, I'm just going to take this as just another challenge. But the thing that really hit home was about an hour and a half later. My sister actually worked close to the hospital, so she came by, and I broke the news to her, and I remember she literally fell apart, Mark, like fell apart. And I remember like having to console her and being like, wait, this is really weird. Like I'm the cancer patient, but she's like, you don't understand. It's stage 3 cancer. I said, I understand. I know what it is, but you know me, like I, I have to do what I can. If it doesn't work out, then at least I tried, right? But I have to do what I can. So the first step I told her is I have to get out of the hospital, but I need to get treatment before I get out of the hospital. And so I this probably is unpopular what I'm going to say right now, but I really, Mark, treated the 2 weeks in the hospital as like Club Med. It's not funny, and I don't make my cancer experience out to be funny, but I remember having to shift the paradigm, because if I thought to myself that this was if the experience was turmoil, if the experience was dreary, then it wouldn't give me the motivation and the momentum to fight, right? And I know that's a tricky word in the cancer survivor community, the word fight, but for me, it was a fight. I felt it was a fight.
I love that. Absolutely love it. I mean, um, my oncologist, when I did get my diagnosis, she brought my wife and I into the office and said, you have stage 4 cancer, and it is so bad that I can't cure you, and I suggest that you get your affairs in order. And my wife's like, oh, the end of the world, and so we rushed, like, getting all this legal stuff done, and which was fine. I was okay with it. But what it did for me was, it basically, at that point, I knew, we know, when you're doing all these invasive tests after just awful tests, that's something's going on. And so I was like, okay, uh, it for me, it was like a starting gun going off for a race, because I knew that it was the starting point to save my life. And so that's what I was going to do, because there was just no way, absolutely no way, that I was going to, I had to be around. I had living to do. I had so many people that, I want to be around for, that I love, that it just wasn't, in my mind, it was not an option at all. And so I could see us kind of going down this very, very similar path, which is really, really rare. I don't see people having this kind of resolve. So it's so refreshing, and it's such an honor to share this platform with you. So it's awesome. My hat's off to you. I think it's amazing. So yeah, can you continue on from there? Because I'm ready to start bringing out the popcorn. This is awesome.
I think so. So with my life's work, I promised myself that if I hit 5 years, and as you know, 5 years is never a guarantee. You're never really going to be told that you're cured. You're going to be told you're in remission or no evidence of disease. But I promised myself, Mark, that if I hit 5 years, I would do something with it. And so I made the bold move of, my background was IT. I did that well, project management, behind the scenes. I'm like, no, I want to actually serve the community that helped me. And so I basically coach cancer survivors. I take them from the confusion, as you know, right? When you get that, people think, oh, you're good. Let's focus on the people who are sick. And that's great. That is true. They do need help. But the survivors need help too, because they face things like recurrence. They face things like scanxiety. They face things like, how can I create this new version of myself when something awful has happened? Because what's the point? And some of them are just like, my body betrayed me. How can I trust it again? And so I work with them on my 3-month program, because there's so many emotions that are derived from this experience. And it took me years to unravel all that for myself. And so I use, my coaching techniques of the head, heart, and gut, which I call the 3 brains, because they resonate some type of energy, some type of consciousness, if you trust it. And so I think a large part is, whether you're a cancer patient or just told you had cancer, or a cancer survivor, the end of the day is, you can create this new version of yourself. It first starts with believing, and then also with the vision. You also need help in order to get you to where you need to go, because there's individuals like ourselves who've been through it, and we know and we understand. And so, my particular use is the use of embodiment, because to a large degree, cancer happens to our physical bodies, but it also triggers those other things that we don't really want to talk about, or we don't really want to express, or we don't want to actually see. And so it's a delicate type of work, but it gives me so much joy. And I think what really helps me is the fact that, because I've interviewed 200 cancer survivors, and I had a book that launched this past February, a subsequent book that thankfully became a bestseller, to me means that this idea of hope resonated with people. I told the stories of 35 of those, including my own. And to me, when my book promotions team told me it became a bestseller in 4 categories, I'm like, I was thankful, obviously, but to me, it meant, oh my God, this message can come across to other people, that you don't have to waffle. You can face cancer head on, because whether you believe in, there's no one really understands or knows how cancer came into our lives. No one can ever really honestly tell us. It just did happen. But there is a decision point at that point. And the decision point is, what are you going to do about it? And so for people like you, and for people like me, we met it head on. We didn't pretend. We didn't, of course you and I were scared, but we sort of let that higher self guide us to where we want to go. And so I think that is the key ingredient that I found, especially with my coaching clients, with the 3-month program that I do, because it's individuals who really want to get a good grasp on their new life, because they're like, I don't want to screw this up. Like, I somehow got a second chance, and I want to make the most of the time I have left.
That is awesome. I love that. Absolutely love it. I mean, one of the things that one of my missions is to change society's perception of cancer. I think it's clear, and we're both examples of it, for lack of a better term. People are raised here believing that, you get a cancer diagnosis, it's like you're going to die. It's a death sentence. And we have to change that. And I know you are out to change that. And I change it. I do my best to help people understand. It's such, I mean, for me, I wouldn't wish cancer on anybody, but for me, it's just changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. I mean, I am so thankful that I've had the opportunity to see what is really, really important in life, and what it's really about. I mean, I think we face, us more than most people, or, a lot of people have, but, the realization that, hey, we've stared death in the face, and we just said, no, you're not coming here. Not today, not next week. You're not welcome. And so that's my mission, is to change society's perception, because that's old. And what's so sad to me is, the conventional medical system is so antiquated. It's so outdated. It hasn't changed at all in decades, and that's not right, because there are things out there that do work, and I think we are living proof of that, without a question. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so 2 things come to mind. So I'm going to echo what I said. So you and I met because our good friend Tim invited me on one of his podcasts. And I go back to what I said in that, which was, he asked me, what was that one word, that cancer? What's your perspective on cancer? And I'm going to say it's wisdom, because the wisdom to continue forward after having cancer, the wisdom to know, unfortunately, if it is terminal, that you have to accept certain things in life because certain things can't be changed. but also the will and the desire to keep marching forward. Because as you mentioned, in which I saw a through thread line in all the people I've interviewed, that cancer is not a death sentence, and that ideology has to change, because it's really about actually figuring out for yourself. We'll never know the cause of the effect of cancer, right? It could be genetics, it could be biology, it could be a whole bunch of environmental things, who knows? But the fact of the matter is, you can overcome. It is possible to overcome, and we're examples of that overcoming. And so I think really the key is to not only feel into the moment of that, but to also do what you can to educate yourself, to be part of groups, and be part of new studies. Like, I created a Google alert on my cancer because I wanted to know everything, the good and the bad about it. And I think the more that we inform, the more action and change that we can initiate. And President Biden initiating the the cancer moonshot is a great step forward, because I think you need governmental help in order to push the levers, because you can do it individually within small clusters, but I think the giant step is when you get a governing body to help you, along with newfound ways and means to move forward with it.
Boy, that is very profound, very in depth. What I want to ask you is, would you be willing to come back for a part 2 here? Because I think we have so much more to discuss and talk about, and I'm just really thoroughly enjoying this, and I appreciate your insights. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate that.
I would love to, Mark. Absolutely. As you know, because I'm a wellness journalist and a columnist, I'm going and covering so many events. But yeah, for you, I'll definitely make the time. 100%.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That's awesome. And then we could get it after Thanksgiving, and
Yeah.
share about that, how our Thanksgivings were. But your insight is just beautiful, and so thank you for being a part of the answer in this cancer community. I think what's so profound about the cancer community is just how many incredible people there are, and genuine people, and they wear their hearts on their sleeve. And what I found out early on was, as I started meeting patient and survivors, and all sorts of people, that it's like being a part of a fraternity, and you instantly cut to the chase, and it always blows my mind when I see somebody who hasn't gone through cancer, and I start talking to them, and you go through kind of like the same. So many people are so guarded, and in the cancer community, we know that time is of the essence. We got to get it out there. Let's cut to the chase, and find out what's going on so we could help each other. So that's what I love about the cancer community. And I know, after you've interviewed all the people that you've interviewed, I know you've interviewed some amazing people, and that's another subject that we could talk about, that is the incredible people that we both have met, which I think we could share some people, and help each other out there.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm so happy you mentioned it, because there was somebody in my book, a female, and I remember when she got breast cancer, she looked around, and I thought it was so wise. She said, "What's the link here? How are we all linked here?" And to go that direct and that focused on cutting to the chase, as you mentioned, that's really the key, because we all have challenges in our life. We all have stuff happening, but cancer is a unique challenge, because it's really honestly trying to kill you. It's one of the deadliest types of diseases you can have. And so I think if you're wise enough and quiet enough and sincere enough, and to some degree understanding that life is a series of experiences, that you'll come to the fold of thinking to yourself that you don't have to become a victim of cancer, that you can find a way through medicine and through, integrated modalities and through your own healing, because, and this happens a lot with my coaching program, individuals who are in it, because they're like, oh, I didn't even, like, I call it the Wizard of Oz complex, where you allay all your power to a doctor, which they're fabulous and they're wonderful because my medical team helped me. But healing doesn't happen, Mark, as you know, in the chemo bed. Healing doesn't happen in the doctor's office. Healing happens when you're sleeping. Healing happens when you're lying down. Healing happens when you're in pain. Healing happens in those quiet moments. That's where healing happens. And I think it's important and pertinent for us to really, really be mindful of how we can grab onto the healing so that we can create a larger healing within ourselves as well.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it any better. And what would you like to leave in this part one? What would you like to leave as a final thought for our viewers?
I think what really comes to mind is the fact that, I think a large portion of individuals, when they know someone who has cancer or a family member who has cancer, they kind of feel like they have to talk about cancer all the time. You don't always have to talk about cancer. As someone in my book mentioned, put the onus on the cancer survivor, on the person who has cancer, and see what they want to talk about, because they don't want to always talk about that. They want to talk about things that are funny or hilarious, or even some of the things that make them angry, or silly television shows. And I think really the key is to have that conversation. I think we're all bottled up. Like, even for me, cancer was shame for me. I felt so much shame. I felt like brought it onto myself. I felt like I disappointed other people. I felt like my life, is now going towards a disaster. And I felt a lot of shame and I didn't really express that to anyone. I really journaled it, and it took me years to unravel, like I mentioned. But I think the more that you're able to release, because I believe that we're all energy, and so there's vibrations that happen. And I think we, to some degree, trap ourselves sometimes. So I think the key is to get it out, release, do what you can medically, obviously, do what you can, spiritually. And that's really the framework that I use in my coaching, is really the 7 energy centers, the framework of the mental, the emotional, the vibrational, the, spiritual, the soul, all that. You have to really unpack that. So I would really just say, just be aware and awake, because I think sometimes we fall asleep at the wheel.
Thank you so much. What is the name of your book, by the way?
Sure. So the book is called I Survived Cancer, and Here Is How I Did It. 35 cancer survivors share their journey. You can find it on Amazon. Go to my website, thehumanresolve.com.
Do you have a copy of your book handy right there?
I do not have it here. I usually do, but I do not have it at the moment, unfortunately.
You could. How about next time?
Yes, I'll definitely have it. I have it right there. And then you can go on every social media site except for Facebook, which I just don't have time to manage. You can find me at The Human Resolve as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Savio. It was great spending time with you. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. And once again, Thanksgiving, we're coming into the holidays. It's a beautiful holiday, and it hopefully gives everybody the opportunity to open their eyes and be grateful for the beautiful life that we have. And if you don't think it's beautiful, try looking at it from 6 feet under with dirt on you. It's not fun. So this is a beautiful holiday. Get together with family and friends. Hopefully you have that opportunity, eat some good food, but appreciate it for what it really is. It's just a wonderful holiday, and let's all work together to help make this world a better place. And the way that starts is just by little things, and making somebody else's day. Give them a smile, give them a nice hello. And our world is just so crazy and so divisive that we need that. And the only way that this world will get better is if we make it better, is if everybody does something to help make it better. And that's how we're going to make it better. So make the most out of every single day, every single hour, every single minute, and every single breath. Thank you so much for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please subscribe, like, and make a comment in the comment section of the video. and we shall see you next week. Thank you so much.